The following is a presentation of the Missouri Sports Network.
One, two, three, four.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Huddle Up here on the Missouri Sports Network inside of the Pizza Ranch studio. Hopefully, you can hear me. We had a little technical difficulties before. The good-looking fellow at the bottom, that's me, J Mac. The second best-looking guy, that's you can pick between these two other guys. We're going to start off with the big fellow up here on the left-hand side, Guy Newcomb. You know him, a scoreboard guy, and the other guy, well, you know, everybody can't be second runner-up or first runner-up. We'll get at the DA, the coach himself. The mugshot, who picture looks like a mugshot. If your screen ever locks up and Darren Archer is there, he's the guy that steals vegetables out of your garden. That's his name, Darren Archer. Coach Archer, hey, glad you guys are here. Glad everyone is here. We're gonna jump right into this NCAA men's basketball. We crowned us a champion. The song was sang at the end of the show. The ball is tipped. There you are, and a little tear came from my eye. The season's over with, gentlemen. We called UConn is the champion now. That's who won 76-59 over San Diego State. But let's go into the semifinal games where San Diego State beat Florida Atlanta 72-71, and UConn handily beat Miami 72-59. Coach, what were your thoughts on the San Diego State Florida Atlanta game?
That was a good game, very entertaining game. It looked like there in the second half that Florida Atlantic was going to walk the dog and head on to the national championship. And to San Diego State's credit, they just kept plugging away. I think they were down by as many as 14 with a little over 11 minutes left in the game. And to their credit, came back and they led at the only point in time in the second half when they needed to, and that's when the buzzer sounded. But they cut it awfully close.
They did, Guy. I know you were sitting right in front of the TV, eating a bowl full of popcorn. What was your thoughts on the game, my friend?
Oh, I thought with what San Diego State did to be able to come back in that game down to 14, they really let their defense turn into offense. They got a lot of steals late. Florida Atlantic was maybe just a little bit careless with the basketball, and especially late. And then to get that shot, at the buzzer, that guy, onions, as Raftery would say, to hit that shot, almost stepping out of bounds, but a tremendous game, and it may have hurt him 48 hours later to expend all that energy coming back and then have to take on a UConn team who really was never tested in the tournament.
Yeah, I agree with you. Lamont Butler was his name, and I really thought Florida Atlantic matched up better than anyone else inside that Final Four, those other three teams with UConn. I actually thought that they might have gave a better game. We'll never know. Lamont Butler hits the shot. Florida Atlanta, I fell for them. They were my Cinderella team. That's why I wanted to see kind of pull it off. UConn goes into the championship game and pretty much has their way. San Diego State put up a slight battle toward the end, but ended up falling up short. I think their knees did. Their legs gave out on them. But here's what the question is, fellas. Is UConn a blue blood? So, Coach, you have all the blue bloods in your mind. Tell me who you are. Let our audience know who you feel are true blue bloods. And then I'm going to ask you a question afterwards.
Sure. I think UCLA has to be at the top or near the top of that list. Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke, Kansas, Indiana, I think are all considered blue bloods. And when you look at what UConn has done, I do think that they've earned that right to be lopped in with that group of what a lot of people consider blue bloods.
I do too, Coach. Now let me ask you this before I go to you, Guy. Coach, you got to take one of those out. You can't keep one of them in. All of those. You got to put UConn in. One of them got to come out. I know you're born and raised in Indiana, but come on, Coach. Indiana hasn't won anything. I think I was probably about 207 pounds. That's a long time ago, Coach. That's a long, long time ago. Last time Indiana won something. Coach, why is Indiana a blue blood?
I think just with the history there, they've won 5 national championships, 3 under uh, the general Robert Montgomery Knight, and just the history that was there. Um, are they a top tier blue blood type program right now? No, they're not. You can, I they are not on that list currently speaking, but I think you have to take into consideration the entire history of basketball and the programs and total number of games won, national championships, just being out in the forefront. Um, Unfortunately, and you're going to make me say it, if I have to take one off, that's probably the one I'm taking off is Indiana.
Yeah, I had to have you say it, Coach, because it says it'd be a blue blood. You're considered elite class of basketball programs. I don't know if Indiana's there right now. Guy, I know your body pumps red blood, and you understand what a blue blood means. Guy, who do you think who are your blue bloods?
Well, I think it's Kentucky, Kansas. I mean, Kansas just won a national championship a year ago. I think Kansas is in there, and I North Carolina. Of course, they went last year, and I think Duke's got to be in there. But I think UConn, UConn with what they've done. I mean, they've won 5 national championships in 24 years, and they've done it with 3 different coaches. So I think you have to put them in there. No one else has won 5 national championships in the last 25 years. And you look at what that means just for the Big East. When Jay Stevens left Villanova, I thought, okay, that's Big East is done. They're not going to get back, and they didn't have as many tournament entries when you look at that conference related to other conferences, and for them to get all the way through there and go undefeated, I believe they went undefeated in their non-conference schedule. So I think UConn has to be in there. Indiana and what Bobby Knight did. I mean, 20 years ago, yeah, they're probably a blue bud. But right now, they're not. And I think part of that, too, when you look at blue bloods, is maybe you look at the coaches. Bill Self's been at Kansas for a long time. North Carolina had, coaches that were there for a long time. Indiana had Knight, who was there for a long time. And obviously Duke was Krzyzewski. Danny Hurley's in his, 3rd or 4th year there at UConn. And he's really built it up, and he called a shot 3 or 4 years ago on Twitter. He said, hey, look out, here we come.
He said it.
Here they are. And they're going to be good again next year.
They're going to be good again next year. Gentlemen, I thought the tournament overall brought me into college basketball. I think I watched it during the season. Everyone watches the tournament from those first day kind of buzzer beaters. I thought it was a great tournament overall. I thought the Final Four kind of was decided once UConn got in there. But am I the only one that when one shining moment comes on, sheds a tear? Am I the only one that feels the emotion? That song has to be on one of the top sports songs as far as defining and capturing a whole 3-week tournament that just puts everyone in such a however long tournament it puts everyone in such a moment that whoever made that song was brilliant. I know Luther Vandross used to sing. I think it was remade. But man, you can mark this segment Big Mac cries because it's a heck of a what does that mean for you when you see that one shining moment, DA?
Well, being in the game as a coach, as a player, it kind of marks the end of basketball season.
Yeah.
And you kind of put that to rest, and it gets me in the gizzard every single year it plays.
Yeah.
I've threatened to stop watching it because I'm the same way. I'm a grown man, but I'm crying when that song plays, and it just kind of, as a coach, as a former coach, as a current coach, you kind of look back and reflect on the season and the grind that you have to go through, some of the battles that you have to go through, and at that point you just self-reflect and kind of look back, and makes it all worth it.
I know, big fella. What about your thoughts? Are you just too hardcore of a man to let that little song get to you, hung
No,
guy?
it gets emotional, for me. I enjoy watching it. Another part of the emotion is, for the longest time, as long as I can remember, Jim Nance has been a part of the Final Four, and this was his last one. And this is the greatest week in professional sports because you've got the Final Four going on, you've got baseball starting up, and now you've got a tradition like no other, who Jim Nance is also a part of. That they had the the par three tournament, on Wednesday, and then they get going on Thursday, and this is just a huge week that really kind of kicks off spring. You plant your tomatoes, and you're probably going to have to start mowing your yard.
Yeah,
And so it is emotional.
yeah.
But I think Jim Nance being done, I think that kind of added to it.
True. Very, very, very true. Well said, gentlemen. Well, we're going to conclude this segment. We'll be right back with you. We're going to talk a little ladies hoops, a little NCAA women's basketball. It got interesting. Friday and Sunday were two very interesting days. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Huddle Up here on the Missouri Sports Network inside the Pizza Ranch studio. We'll be right back.
Chevy Silverado. It's got the power you want and the capability you need to do the job, so you can get to the important work. Find new moments, find new roads. Get a $500 cash allowance on all 2022 Silverado pickups with a 2.7-liter turbo engine. Plus, unlock your code to claim $500 Chevy CyberCash. Visit ChevyCyberCash.com today.
It means the world to me to have a job where I can help farmers. That's what I want to do, is be here for them.
Alan became a counselor in a rough time. He just has a feeling for what we as farmers are going through.
I learned that there's not a given in life. It takes a team, not only us, but Country Financial. And I've learned that there's people that also are going to watch out for us and that care.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Huddle Up here on the Missouri Sports Network inside of the Pizza Ranch studio. Johnny Mack is here. Guy Newcomb, the coach, DA. Hey, let's jump into it. Hey, we're going to talk about something that we talk about it, but we don't necessarily talk about it all the time. That's women's college basketball. And let me tell you something. I was equally as interested, if not slightly more so interested, in what was happening in the women's game. And I can tell you this, by far more interested in what happened in that championship game on Sunday, but it's equally interested in those semifinal games on Friday night. I was pleasantly surprised. LSU ends up winning the national championship, but the semifinal games had Iowa beating South Carolina and LSU beating Virginia Tech 79-72. Gentlemen, let's start in on that Iowa-South Carolina game. I promise you, I was at home, feet kicked up, on the couch, watching women's basketball. It was a game changer. And Caitlin Clark put on a show. Let's just be quite honest. She gave South Carolina more than they could handle. And South Carolina couldn't respond. And Caitlin Clark put on a show. Guy, I know for a fact you was at home eating pork chops and chitlins and some cornbread. Tell me what you saw Friday nights if you were sitting at home when you watched that Iowa-South Carolina semifinal matchup.
Well, I'll tell you what, I didn't think Iowa had a prayer.
Yeah.
Looking at the dominance, I mean, South Carolina had won 46 games in a row. They're defending national champions. They are so big in the interior. I just didn't think, but Caitlin Clark, it was an incredible performance by her all the way throughout the tournament.
Yeah.
With what she was able to do. And, that was, I was flipping back and forth. And then that whole second half, I was glued to it. I thought, are they going to be able to pull this off?
Yeah.
And sure enough, they did. And I was excited, about Iowa, then matching up with Kim Mulkey and LSU and what Mulkey did, there in a very short time, turning that program around. Of course, she had 9 new players this year. And that's just from the transfer portal. But no, Caitlin Clark was amazing. And the whole thing that happened in the championship game, I know we'll talk about that. I'll have maybe a different take on it than both of you. But no, that Friday night was exciting, and I was looking forward to that Sunday matchup.
Yeah, both games Friday night were very, very good. LSU was lucky to get to the championship game. They were down throughout most of the game and had an incredible fourth quarter to be able to advance. And then one thing that kind of gets lost in the South Carolina-Iowa game was the game prep by the Iowa coaching staff and Coach Bluter. They just flat did not guard a couple of South Carolina players on the perimeter and just dared them to try to score from out there. And to me, that was genius because it put South Carolina in an uncomfortable position where they couldn't run everything through their center, who was last year's national player of the year and tremendous talent. But I thought the coaching, just the game plan going into that was very, very good. And kind of got lost in the shuffle because Caitlin Clark had such a great game.
It did, because it was almost like they were like, if you hit this 15-footer, then we'll come guard you. But it was almost like they lost confidence in themselves. Like, why are they giving me this shot? And if I take it and miss it, because then I'm gonna feel like they're really gonna pack in that zone a little bit more. But you're right, that was a heck of a game plan that they had against them, because they really didn't guard a lot of their perimeter players. And even though South Carolina beat them up on the boards, but they still didn't beat them up as nearly as they would have. They weren't packing it in. But that brought us to an interesting matchup. That brought us to the championship game. And Caitlin Clark put on a run. I'm sorry, anybody that feels a little differently about this, but she became the face of that tournament. And some people want to put a racial component on it. It might be there slightly. I believe it will always be there. And most things we do in this country, there is that component there. I'm on record as saying what happened in the championship game went a little bit overboard. Some of the taunting by Angel Reese of LSU after the game was decided in the waning moments. She did the "you can't see me" gesture. And I understood that because and Caitlin Clark deserved to give it kind of put back into her face because she had did it, but she didn't direct it at anyone. She wasn't taunting right to them directly, but she did do it. So turnabout is fair play. I thought that Reese went a little bit further than what needed to happen, and therefore I thought it was a little bit overboard. And I'll just leave it at that. So all the double standards which do take place in our society were there on display for America to kind of make their assumption. With the first lady wanting to invite Iowa to the White House, that was kind of crazy. That didn't make sense. DA, I've heard a little bit of what you want to say. I want to start with you. I think Guy might have a big surprise for us on his take. But DA, let's start with you. What are your thoughts as a coach of men and women? What are your thoughts?
I'm old school, and I don't think there's a place in the game for it. I understand that, at the professional level, there's an entertainment value to doing, having some of those antics. But at the what is supposed to be amateur level, you let your play do the talking, and really disappointed in both of them. They had such a huge platform to really advance the women's game of basketball and really showcase what it's been for so long. That tended to that put a black eye, so to speak, on what really could have been, still being talked about, how good that Final Four was. So, I agree. Uh, Angel Reese probably went overboard and directed it at Caitlin Clark, but Caitlin Clark didn't need to do it in the Elite Eight either. Hey, she's a good enough player. She doesn't have to do any of that. She can let her game do the talking. So I'm old school when it comes to that stuff.
I agree. Now let me get a drum roll, Guy, because I really want to hear what you got to say here. But what do you say, fellas? What do you say, Guy?
Well, from the beginning of the season, anytime women's basketball was talked about all year long, it was Caitlin Clark. That's the only women's basketball player I know. And every time, especially throughout this Final Four, this entire tournament, it's been about Caitlin Clark. Every time you turn the TV on, they're talking about Caitlin Clark, or they're talking about South Carolina as a team. but they're talking about Caitlin Clark. And I didn't know who Angel Reese was. I have never heard of her, but she's got 34 double-doubles this year. She's a hell of a player. And I think she was just sick of it. She was sick of every time she turned the TV on, I've got 34 double-doubles. I'm not getting any credit. It's all about Caitlin Clark. And I'm not going to say I condone it, but I understand it. I mean, people were tired of hearing about it. And even Caitlin Clark came out later and she defended Angel Reese and what she did. The whole, First Lady Biden, that was a moronic statement to make in Denver, Colorado. Hey, I think we ought to invite Iowa too to the White House. That was just stupid. And, as far as, I'll defend, Angel Reese and her ability. I mean, she, like I said, she just was sick and tired of seeing Caitlin Clark's face everywhere. And she wasn't getting the respect that she deserved. I mean, she had 34 double-doubles. I didn't know that.
Well, I understand that. I just, as a person of color, I'm saying I get it. As I get it, I completely get it. And I just wish it would have stopped at a certain point and said, "That's it. Points taken. You got her. We got her. Let's let it ride." The continuation of it is what I said. That's now you're going overboard, and that's what I said. That's what I said.
Yeah, but Johnny, back in the day, we wouldn't be doing any of this or any of this. We would go up to the player at the free throw line or, at a dead ball or something like that and say, "Hey, congratulations on your Player of the Year award or honor. We just got the ship."
Yeah.
And you leave it at that and you just
Yeah.
go on about your way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's something we don't know. We don't know what was being said.
Well, I can tell you this. When you're seeing Draymond Green or Klay Thompson on the sideline going, "I got 1, 2, 3, 4 rings," when he's going back and forth in the NBA, people see all these things. They're
Right.
pointing to, all these things manifest themselves, and then you see this come out. And then, I think both of them are outstanding players, and both of them are probably really great individuals. I just hated that it took away from the team aspect of LSU. But we will say this here: congratulations to LSU for winning the women's championship. It's just as much as we say congratulations to UConn for winning the men's. Gentlemen, interesting segment. No one cried, but the ball did get tipped. You running for your life, and now you know. Okay, so one shining moment, gentlemen. We'll be right back. You're listening to Huddle Up here on the Missouri Sports Network inside the Pizza Ranch studio. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Enjoy a fresh start to your meal at Pizza Ranch, where the salad bar is always included with your buffet. Every day you'll find garden fresh greens, colorful veggies, and sides for every appetite. It's the most refreshing way to balance out a meal while leaving plenty of room for your other buffet favorites. Convenient, fast, and fresh. It's the Pizza Ranch Salad Bar. Mmm.
Imagine a bank that goes where you go, creating seamless solutions for every step in your financial journey, allowing you to manage your money the way you want to, with a banking relationship that makes every day extraordinary. Imagine a world full of possibilities, always within reach. Central Bank. We do banking better.
Welcome back, everyone. You listen to Huddle Up inside the Pizza Ranch studio. This is Johnny Mack, and let me tell you guys something. There's nobody in the room with me. I'm all by myself. These guys here, they're in the studio also. We're all in our own separate Pizza Ranch studios. We got the big fella up there, Guy Newcomb. We got my main man, the coach, DA. This last segment, we're going to talk a little bit about baseball. Let's say, let me rephrase that. We're going to talk all about baseball, okay? Major League Baseball opened the season last week. Our favorite Cardinals were there. The Royals played, of course, this weekend also, and unfortunately, we had a Cubs fan on the scene. So we're going to talk a little bit about Cubs. And when I say a little bit, I mean we're just going to give you their record and we're going to keep it moving. But let me tell you something, big fella with the nice Missouri Sports Network hat on, looking all slim and trim, with the goatee sitting there with a little beard. Look at him. Don't start blushing. Are you blushing, Mr. Newcomb? Mr. Newcomb. The Redbirds, where are we sitting at right now? What are your thoughts on our first 6 games? And let's try to forecast the next 6 games. What do you see, buddy?
Well, Cardinals right now, they're 2-4 on the season. Offensively, the numbers are great. When you look at Paul Goldschmidt's hitting 450. Nolan Gorman's hitting 433. You can't keep him out of the lineup. And Jordan Walker has come up, and, he's hitting 333. Got his first home run today in that game today. Had another RBI, but they still lose. Their pitching staff right now is just they just can't throw strikes, and they can't get anybody out. They are definitely not missing bats. Offensively, I think they're going to be one of the better teams in the league, especially with Jordan Walker hitting there and protecting. If Nolan Gorman comes around and lives, like we all thought he was going to, they're going to have a chance. And still interested in the new rules and the rule changes. I know the games right now are down 20, I think down 27 minutes per game from a year ago, which I think is great. I think the one thing the owners didn't plan on is that's 27 minutes you ain't got people, buying beer and popcorn and peanuts.
Right.
And I think they may realize that at the end of the year. But with the Cardinals right now, of course, you had Tyler O'Neill's deal, in the game on Tuesday where he kind of got accused of loafing a little bit by the manager Marmal, and he kind of took it outside of the clubhouse, and I think he's going to have some repercussions just from the players. When you go to the media and you say, hey, this guy's he's loafing, and you saw him, if you watch the tape, you saw him slow down as he rounded third. But I think and DA, we talked about this, that there were some extenuating circumstances with him rounding that base and getting thrown out of the plate, which would have made it a 4-2 game with 2, 3, and 4 hitters coming up.
Well, DA, you have your take on it. I have mine. If a coach called, they're smart. They know how to manipulate the players and the system and the media. I don't think he says that just on a humbug. He said that to light a fire. There's a little bit more brewing underneath there, DA, with Tyler O'Neill. But that's just my thoughts. DA, what are your thoughts about the Cardinals and the Royals? And I'll let you speak a little bit. Let's talk about the Cubs a little bit also.
Yeah. One stat that kind of jumped out at me as far as the Cardinals are concerned is that their starters have given up 20 runs over the first 2 innings throughout the first 6 games. That kind of lets you know where, and hey, in my opinion, they've got a pretty solid starting staff. I really thought it'd be just the opposite. I thought it might be the bullpen that could be, your middle relievers and bullpen that could be part of the problem, or, big question mark heading into the season. Cubs right now, they're young. They've got a new group. They're 2-3 right now. Their game today against Cincinnati got rained out. They're going to be lucky to be 500, I think, by the end of the year, and they'll have a big fire sale at when it's time to for the trade deadline. But Royals kind of in the same boat. They're 1-4. Greinke was on the bump last night. We do not have a final, but big news coming out of the Royals camp is their manager, Quatrero, is out with COVID. And you never know how a team's going to react to that, and God forbid it, start spreading throughout the team. Their big problem is they're batting 170 as a team. They just got to get the bats going, and somebody besides Salvador Perez has got to get going. They're pitching, their starters overall have a 3.8 ERA, and I'm sorry, that's their team totals. Their starters have been very good. It's their bullpen that's been the issue, and they just got to start getting some offense going.
I think right now, Kansas City, the area, the city itself, they're still so high off that Chiefs Super Bowl victory that the Royals are taking somewhat of a back seat. Then they got the draft coming up. I spoke to someone up there. They said the city's just kind of on fire right now with the draft and the Chiefs, and just a good vibe in the city. And then Travis Kelce's doing some music thing up there this week. But, amid all of that, that's not the big story. The big story is not the Chiefs. We don't care about the Super Bowl anymore, and we're going to edit out that Cubs stuff just for our listeners to know. You might not hear that. The big story in Kansas City, though, is not the Chiefs. It's not the Royals going 1-4. It's the story of the decade, and we got our own eyes on this story. Our own very own scoreboard guy has the latest on this Chiefsaholic that is still buzzing and lighting up the internet. Guy, please tell me the latest on where this guy is. Where is he?
We don't know where he is. And Guy Snacks, they put out a tweet, said, "Dear Chiefsaholic, we don't know where you are either, but if you come into a Guy's Deli, we'd love to see you, but we'll probably still call the police."
Guy, fill the audience in that might not know what's going on. Fill them in very quickly on what's going on.
Yeah, Chiefsaholic was a super fan. You'd see him with the Wolves outfit on at every home game. And then he started going on the road the last couple of years, and he would always end up on television because he would always get great seats that he'd had to pay for. But how he was paying for them was on the way to the games, he was robbing banks.
You can't make this up, folks.
Yeah. And he finally got caught in Oklahoma back in December or maybe November. Got caught, got put in jail, was waiting, the trial. He was on $200,000 bond. The judge lowered it to $80,000 because he talked him in. He needed to go out and go to a family event in Arizona, which was the Super Bowl. And they let him out on $80,000. He's not supposed to leave Oklahoma, and he cuts off his ankle bracelet, and now nobody knows where he's at.
In the wind.
He is in the wind. I thought they'd have caught him by now, but maybe they have. But as far as the last update, he has not been caught. This is the craziest story of the year. Robbing banks to buy tickets on his way to Chiefs games.
I'm gonna take my hat off for that. What I heard he's playing center field for the Kansas City Royals. Is that true or not, guy? That's what I heard. I heard he's batting $180 right about now.
He'd probably be the leading hitter.
Fellas, we're gonna keep our eyes on that story every week until he's caught. Make it so that we're gonna make that a part of our every week segment. Where is the Chiefsaholic fan, the super fan? Gentlemen, it's been a great show. Anything anybody want to add before we get out of here?
I don't have anything to add, but if you see this guy right here, I'll just put a picture of him up. That is the Chiefsaholic.
I love it. Call 911, and he might be armed and dangerous. All right. So look, everyone, it's been a great week. We'll see you again in 7 days. You're listening to Huddle Up here on the Missouri Sports Network inside of the Pizza Ranch studio. And I'll say this for everyone. Peace.
Peace out.
This has been a presentation of the Missouri Sports Network. Thank you for tuning in.